My own son's hand landed on my cheek, hard and burning. On the porch of the house I built together with my late wife, I, a father, was slapped because I refused to give them this house. But before the story begins, please write in the comments which state or city you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the Stories with Meaning channel can continue to grow and bring you even more powerful stories. That evening felt like any other quiet evening in my hometown on the outskirts of Salem, Oregon. The sound of church bells signaling evening prayer drifted through the air, mixing with the smell of leftover frying oil from Mrs. Bennett's kitchen next door, seeping through the thin wooden walls. My name is Robert Miller. I'm a retired elementary school teacher, living alone since my wife Susan passed away 3 years ago due to a stroke. This house is an inheritance from my late in-laws, a home Susan and I lived in for 36 years of marriage. Half wooden walls, half brick, with faded tile floors, old but still strong. Every corner still holds the warmth of the past. Ethan, my beloved 6-year-old grandson, was playing with his wooden toy cars on the living room floor. The wheels made a soft creaking sound against the tiles. I sat on an old rattan chair, the chair Susan and I used to share, slowly sipping my own bitter black coffee. The TV was on at low volume, showing local news. On the wall hung an old family photo. Michael, my son, still a child, standing beside Susan and me, smiling innocently. When Michael arrived with his wife Emily, I immediately felt something was off. They rarely visited without notice. This time, they brought a plastic bag filled with sliced bread from a modern bakery, not the kind I usually bought at the local market. Michael, now 36, looked restless. Emily, 7 months pregnant, smiled sweetly as she greeted me. "Dad, how are you feeling?" Michael asked, sitting across from me. "Still holding up," I replied, studying their faces. Emily placed the bag on the table. "I brought some bread, Mr. Miller. It goes well with hot tea." Their tone was warm, almost too warm. Michael asked about my blood pressure, whether I was still taking my medication regularly. Emily suggested I join the senior exercise group at the community center. I felt uneasy. This wasn't like them, but I tried to stay positive. I served them tea and the leftover fried bananas from the morning. "How's Ethan doing here?" Emily asked, rubbing her pregnant belly. "He's happy. He likes playing here, sometimes even stays the night," I said, glancing at my grandson. The conversation flowed normally until Michael slowly shifted the topic. "Dad, this is about the future, about your grandchildren too." Emily added softly, "Our apartment is too small and rent keeps going up. With 2 kids, we really need a better place." They began hinting that the house was too big for me alone. Michael said he worried I was lonely. Emily said they could take better care of the house if they lived here. "This house is big, Dad. It's a shame for you to live here alone." I knew where this was going. Then Emily said the words that made my heart tighten. "We're applying for a home loan. The bank suggested collateral to speed things up." Michael nodded. "If there's a fixed asset, the process is easier. We were hoping you'd sign shared ownership papers, putting the house under my and Emily's names too." Her voice was still sweet, but her eyes were sharp. I fell silent. My coffee had gone cold. "This house is my late wife's trust," I said quietly but firmly. "I won't change the ownership." Emily forced a smile. "But this is for your grandchildren too." "This house is safe with me. Why change it?" Michael grew restless. "Dad, don't make this difficult. We're tired of renting." Ethan stopped playing, staring at us with innocent eyes. "If you want a house," I said, "work for it. This isn't about love, it's about responsibility." Emily's smile vanished. She stood up and pulled out a folder of documents. "Everything's ready. Just sign." "I won't," I said, without even looking. "Put it away." Michael exploded. He stood up and knocked my chair. "Don't be stubborn. We're your own family." I gripped the armrest, trying to stay calm. "Speak properly." "You're the one refusing to talk properly," he shouted. Then it happened. Michael's hand flew through the air and struck my cheek. Slap. The sound echoed through the room. Ethan screamed and cried. Tea spilled onto the floor. I held my burning cheek and stared at my son. For the first time in my life, he looked like a stranger. "Get out of this house," I said calmly. "Now." Emily rushed to pull him away. "I'm sorry, Dad. He lost control." "Leave," I repeated. They left. The door slammed. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the family photo on the wall. The boy in that picture, the obedient child I raised, was gone. Before dawn, I knew what I had to do. If my own son could raise his hand to me because of this house, then I had to make sure he would never touch it again, physically or legally. I documented everything: the date, the time, the words, the slap. The next morning, I went to the community health clinic. The doctor examined my cheek and issued a written medical report. Bruising and swelling on the left cheek consistent with blunt force trauma. That piece of paper became my first proof. On the way home, I stopped by Mrs. Bennett's small food stall. She looked at my face and gasped, "My God, Robert, did you fall?" I took a deep breath. "No," I said quietly. "I was hit." I sat on a plastic bench in front of the small food stall. "Mrs. Bennett," I asked quietly, "yesterday evening, did you happen to hear any noise coming from my house?" Mrs. Bennett stopped frying the food. Her face turned serious. "I did, Mr. Miller. It was very loud, like people arguing. I even stepped out onto my porch to listen." "What exactly did you hear?" I asked. "There was shouting, then a sound like a chair being shoved hard. After that, a child crying. That must have been Ethan, right?" I nodded. "Yes, my grandson." She sat down beside me. "Forgive me for asking, Mr. Miller, who was making all that noise?" "My son," I replied quietly. "Michael. And his wife, Emily." She frowned. "What were they fighting about?" "They wanted my house," I said quietly. "They wanted me to use it as collateral for a bank loan. I refused. Michael got angry." Mrs. Bennett fell silent for a long moment. Then she sighed. "To be honest, I've suspected something for a while. I've heard them raise their voices at you before, but I thought it was just family matters." My heart skipped. "You've heard this before?" She nodded. "I keep a daily journal, Mr. Miller. I write down things that happen around the neighborhood, even strange noises." I leaned forward. "May I see it?" She went inside the stall and returned with a small, worn notebook. "Here, I always write the dates, too." She flipped through the pages. "November 10th, she read. "Noise from Mr. Miller's house. Emily yelling loudly." Then November 12th, "Michael talking about inheritance with Mr. Miller. Voices raised." I read carefully. Her notes were more detailed than I expected. Dates, times, even fragments of conversation heard from outside. "Mrs. Bennett, may I make a copy of this? I might need it as evidence." "Of course. I'll photocopy it tomorrow at the internet cafe." She hesitated. "What are you planning to do, Mr. Miller?" "I'm possibly file a police report," I said, "but I want to be prepared." She nodded knowingly. "You're right. These days, children dare to act against their parents. My own child once yelled at me over property, too. I was lucky my husband was still alive back then." I went home feeling slightly relieved. At least I had a neighbor willing to stand as a witness, and Mrs. Bennett was known as an honest, trusted person in the neighborhood. That afternoon, after lunch, I went to the small internet cafe near the intersection. The place was cramped, with about 10 old computers. The owner, Tony, a friendly young man, greeted me. "Mr. Miller, you rarely come here," he said while turning on a computer. "Yes, Tony, I need to look up some legal information." "About what, sir?" "About parents' rights and inheritance law." Tony helped operate the computer. I wasn't very good with the internet.
He typed the keywords for me. I learned that legally, parents have full control over their assets while they are still alive. Children have no right to demand inheritance before death. Then we read about elder protection laws. It stated clearly that seniors have the right to protection from physical and psychological abuse, including abuse by their own family members. What shocked me most was information about legal guardianship. Apparently, children can petition the court to take control of their parents' assets if the parent is declared mentally or physically unfit. Tony frowned at the screen. This is serious. So if a child is bad enough, they could legally take over their parents' property. That's exactly why I have to be careful, I replied. I wrote down everything important and asked Tony to print several pages. May I ask what happened with your son, sir? Tony asked gently. There are issues, I said. I hope they can still be resolved peacefully. That evening, I opened the small metal safe in my bedroom. Inside were all my important documents. The house deed, still fully under my name, my ID, bank books, and old certificates. At the very bottom, I found the most precious item, an envelope containing Susan's handwritten letter written a few months before she passed away. This house is a trust from my parents to my husband and our children. As long as my husband is alive, this house is his home until the end of his life. Michael may inherit it after his father passes away, but he must never force him to leave or sell this house. Tears filled my eyes. Susan had thought of everything. I photographed the letter with my phone. The quality wasn't perfect, but the words were clear. The next day, I went to City Hall. I asked about legal procedures related to property ownership. A clerk named Mr. Thompson, who had worked there for years, answered patiently. To transfer ownership, Mr. Miller, we need written consent from the current owner. Without it, nothing can be done. But what if the owner is declared mentally unfit? That's different. If there's a court ruling declaring someone legally incompetent, a guardian can be appointed, usually a close family member. Then he added something important. If you're concerned, sir, you could create a living trust. What is that? It's a legal document made with a notary. It locks the status of the property so it cannot be sold or transferred while you're alive, no matter who pressures you. My heart raced. Where can I do that? There's a notary in Portland, Mr. Daniel Harris. He's reputable and affordable. I wrote down the name and address. That night, I recorded myself on my phone. My name is Robert Miller. I am 60 years old. I live at 15 Sparrow Street, Salem, Oregon. I am mentally and physically healthy. I am making this recording as proof that I am of sound mind and capable of making my own decisions. I saved the video on my phone and on a flash drive I bought from Tony. That night, for the first time since the slap, I slept a little better. Not because the problem was over, but because I had begun to fight back. The next morning felt ordinary. Eggs frying, hot coffee brewing, but beneath the familiar smells was the quiet tension of a battle about to begin. I woke before dawn. After morning prayers, I cooked breakfast carefully. Omelet, coffee, and reheated fried bananas. Ethan was still asleep in the back room. I pulled the blanket up to his chin. He didn't need to witness another adult conflict. Around 7 a.m., just as I expected, a motorcycle stopped in front of the house. I peeked through the curtain. Michael and Emily had arrived, but this time they weren't alone. A well-dressed woman stepped off behind them, carrying a large bag. They entered without knocking. Michael looked firm. Emily smiled, but her eyes were cold. "Good morning, Dad," Michael said sweetly. The woman stood near the door, still silent. "This is Dad, Miss Linda Carter," Emily said. "She's a legal expert." Miss Carter slightly bowed. She wore a neat blue dress and a matching shawl, carefully arranged to look respectful. They sat at the table. Breakfast was served, but this was no family meal. It felt like a formal meeting. After a few minutes, Emily finally spoke. "Dad, we already apologized yesterday. Emotions got out of control. But today, we want to talk properly." Michael nodded. "We need certainty. Our children need a clear future." "That's why we brought Miss Carter," Emily added. "She can explain the legal options, what's best for everyone." I looked at them calmly. This time, I was ready.
Miss Linda Carter took a folder out of her bag. "Mr. Miller," she said calmly, "I've already heard the situation from Michael and Emily. I believe there's a solution that benefits everyone." I stayed silent, continuing to eat while listening. "So here's the idea," she continued in a professional tone. "The house is legally yours. However, if you're willing to gift a portion of ownership to Michael, their home loan process would move much more smoothly." "Gift a portion?" I asked. "Yes," she nodded. "You would still retain the right to live here, but legally, Michael would also become a co-owner. Later, if you grow older and require care, Michael would have the flexibility to renovate or manage the house properly." Emily leaned forward enthusiastically. "That's right, Dad. You don't need to worry. You can live here for as long as you want. It's just the paperwork that becomes shared." Michael added, "Dad, this is the best solution. You're safe, and we finally get a house." I put my spoon down and looked at them one by one. "So you think what happened yesterday can be fixed like this?" "Yes, Dad," Michael replied. "We were wrong yesterday. Now we want to do things the right way." Miss Carter opened her folder and slid several documents onto the table. "I've prepared a draft agreement. You can read it, and if you agree, you may sign." I looked at the papers without touching them. They were neatly typed, formal, clearly legal documents. "Miss Carter," I asked calmly, "if I sign this, what exactly happens to my house?" "The house remains yours, but Michael becomes a legal co-owner. That means if anything happens, he can make decisions regarding the property." "What kind of decisions?" I asked. "Well, selling it, renovating it, renting it out. Of course, while considering your interests." I paused, then asked again, "And if I disagree with Michael's decision?" Miss Carter and Emily exchanged a glance. "Well, that could be discussed," Miss Carter replied hesitantly, "or resolved through legal channels if no agreement is reached," Emily added quietly. At that moment, I understood exactly what they were doing. This was a trap, polite, legal, and carefully wrapped. Michael grew impatient. "Dad, please think about this for the sake of our whole family." "Yes, Dad," Emily added, rubbing her belly. "You don't want Ethan and his sibling to grow up without a home, right?" I stood up. "Wait here. I need to get something." They exchanged curious looks as I walked into my bedroom. I returned carrying my old laptop and placed it on the dining table. "Do you want to hear something?" I asked while turning it on. "Hear what?" Michael asked. I opened an audio file recorded 2 days earlier. The laptop speakers crackled, then voices filled the room. Michael's angry voice. "Dad, don't be stubborn. We're your own family." My own voice, trying to stay calm. "Michael, speak properly." Then, slap. The sound was sharp and unmistakable. A child crying followed. Miss Carter looked shocked. Emily went pale. Michael froze. "Do you think I'm senile?" I asked coldly, staring at them. "Your voices are very clear here." I stopped the recording and placed another document on the table. "This is a medical report from the community health clinic. Bruising on my cheek caused by my own son's slap." Then I added another set of papers. "These are copies of a neighbor's journal.
She recorded multiple incidents of shouting from this house, complete with dates and times. Miss Carter read the documents seriously. Emily tried to interrupt. "Dad, this is a misunderstanding." "Stop," I cut her off. "Listen." The dining room fell silent. Only the ticking wall clock could be heard. "Today, I am not speaking as your father," I said firmly. "I am speaking as the owner of this house. Yesterday, you came and forced me. Today, you come with a lawyer. Tomorrow, what will you bring? The police?" Michael tried to speak. "Dad, we didn't mean—" I looked straight at him. "3 days ago, you slapped your own father over this house. Today, you brought a lawyer to take that same house. What's the difference?" Miss Carter tried to calm the situation. "Mr. Miller, perhaps there's been miscommunication. We can look for another solution." "No, thank you," I said, closing the laptop. "I've made my decision." I stood and faced Michael and Emily. "You are not allowed to return to this house for the time being." "Dad, this is a family house." "A family house where the owner was assaulted by his own child?" I replied coldly. "This is my house. I decide who may enter. Leave. Reflect on yourselves. Understand what family truly means. Only then can we talk again. But not now." Michael stood up, his face red, struggling to contain his anger. "Dad, do you think this is fair?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. "A thief doesn't slap the homeowner," I answered calmly. "You chose this path." Miss Carter quickly packed her documents. "If you change your mind, Mr. Miller, you may contact me." "I won't," I replied. They left with sour expressions. Emily glanced back once, her eyes full of hatred. Michael walked away without looking back. I closed the door gently, but locked it loudly from the inside so they could hear. I returned to the dining table and cleared the untouched plates. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from relief. For the first time in a long while, I felt control over my own life. That afternoon, while watering the plants in the backyard, Mrs. Bennet arrived with the photocopies she promised. "Mr. Miller, here they are. I saw Michael and Emily pass by this morning. They looked upset. What happened?" "They came with a lawyer," I said, accepting the papers. "They tried to force me to sign over the house." "Oh my God, they really don't give up, do they?" "Apparently not. That's why your notes are so important." She sat on the bamboo bench. "Mr. Miller, forgive me for saying this, but you need to be careful. When children become obsessed with money, they can do terrible things." "What do you mean?" "They might report you to City Hall or even the police, claim you're old, confused, mentally unfit, then take over the house under the excuse of taking care of you." A chill ran down my spine. I had read about that possibility just yesterday. "Are you prepared if they do that?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "I've gathered evidence. I'm also preparing a living trust with a notary." "Good," she nodded. "Don't let your own child defeat you." That night, I couldn't sleep, not from fear, but anticipation. I knew this wasn't over. Michael and Emily wouldn't give up easily. Around 9 p.m., someone knocked on the door again. This time, it was Emily alone. No Michael, no Miss Carter. And her expression was completely different from the morning. She said quietly, "You think those documents are enough to protect you? I'm smarter than that." I was sitting in the living room reading short passages from the Bible in a low voice. The light was dim, only a single 25-watt bulb glowing. Crickets chirped from the backyard. Motorcycles passed by in the alley occasionally. The knock came again, hard and demanding. I closed the book and walked carefully to the door. When I opened it, Emily stood alone on the porch. She looked nothing like she did that morning. No shawl. Her hair was loose and messy, her face pale, without makeup or lipstick. Her eyes, once sweet, were now sharp and cold. "Good evening, Dad," she said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "Where's Michael?" I asked, closing the door. "He's at home, stressed. I came alone because we need to talk, just the two of us." She sat down on the rattan chair where Susan used to sit. I hated that, but I held my temper. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked, sitting across from her. Emily stared at me intensely. "I'm done playing nice. I need this house." "Why?" "Because the child in my womb needs a future. Michael works odd jobs. His income is unstable. We have nothing except the hope of owning a house." I listened without interrupting. "That recording you played this morning won't do much," she continued dismissively. "At best, it shows Michael lost his temper once, not a serious crime." "Then why did you come?" I asked calmly. She paused, then leaned back. "Because I want to tell you the real plan." "What plan?" "Do you think Michael planned all this? You think taking this house was his idea?" She laughed softly, coldly. "Michael just follows along. I'm the one thinking." Something about her tone.
"I want you to sign a property gift deed for this house," Emily said coldly. "If you don't, I will report this to the police and take it to court. Once they decide you're no longer mentally competent and need supervision, no one will believe you. Oh, there will be witnesses," she added calmly. "I've already told Ms. Linda Carter about your condition. I said you've been declining mentally." My heart started racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Does Michael know about this plan of yours?" I asked. "Michael?" Emily laughed softly. "He's naive, Dad. He doesn't know anything. He thinks this is all for the family's good. This entire plan is mine." "Why are you doing this?" I asked. "Because I'm tired of being poor," she snapped. "I'm tired of living in a cramped, smelly rental. I want my children to have a proper home." She sat back in Susan Miller's old chair, her voice steady. "And this house is perfect. Big yard, good neighborhood. If it's sold, we get a lot of money. If not, we can live here." "You want to throw me out of my own house?" I asked, standing up. "Not throw you out," she replied calmly. "Just reorganize things. You can stay in the back room, or if you want, I can find you a nice nursing home." The word nursing home made my blood boil. "You're unbelievable," I said. "This isn't about courage, Dad. It's about necessity," Emily said coldly. "I need this house more than you do. Susan is gone. The dead don't need houses. The living do." "Get out of my house," I said firmly. She didn't move. "I'll give you until the end of the week," she said. "If you don't sign the deed, I'll begin legal proceedings." "What kind of proceedings?" I asked. "A guardianship petition," she replied. "I'll request the court to declare you legally incompetent to manage your assets. I already have a doctor willing to sign a statement saying you're experiencing mental decline." "What doctor would lie like that?" I asked. "There are doctors who will do anything for money," she answered flatly. My world felt like it was collapsing. Emily had planned everything carefully. "You think your medical report and recordings will protect you?" she said as she stood up. "I'm smarter than that. If this goes to court," she continued, "I'll say Michael hit you because you were having one of your episodes, angry, aggressive, and he reacted in self-defense." "No one will believe that," I said. "They will," she replied.
I already told Ms. Linda Carter my version. She said it sounded reasonable. Elderly people with mental illness often become aggressive toward family. She walked toward the door. I don't want conflict. I just want the best outcome. You sign the deed, the problem ends. You stay here, we get the house, everyone wins. And if I refuse? I asked. Then you lose everything, she said quietly. The house, your independence, and maybe even your relationship with your grandchildren. Ethan will be taught to fear your mentally unstable grandfather. Don't involve Ethan, I said angrily. He's already involved. He's your grandson. That makes him part of this. She opened the door. I'm leaving now. You have until the end of the week. If you change your mind, call me. After she left, I collapsed into the chair. All this time, I thought Michael was leading this plan. I was wrong. Emily was the mastermind, and far more dangerous. Her words about Susan haunted me. Had Susan really fallen by accident, or was it a threat meant to break me? One thing was clear. I couldn't stay silent. The next morning, the first thing I did was contact Harold Simmons, a retired attorney Mrs. Bennett had recommended. He lived nearby in Salem, Oregon. He welcomed me warmly despite the lack of an appointment. "Robert, it's been a long time. What brings you here so early?" "I need real legal help," I said. "This is a serious family matter." I told him everything, from the house demands, the slap, Ms. Linda Carter's visit, and Emily's threats. Harold listened carefully, taking notes. "This is complicated, but it's manageable if we prepare now." "They're planning a guardianship petition," he explained. "They'll claim you're legally incompetent." "Can that succeed?" I asked. "It can if they have strong evidence, but will prepare stronger evidence to the contrary." He explained that I needed an official mental health evaluation from a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. We also needed a living trust declaration stating the house could not be transferred or sold while I was alive. "That document is legally powerful," he said, "especially notarized and witnessed." He urged me to act before Emily filed anything. Then I told him about Susan's death. Harold's expression darkened. "If there's any indication of foul play, this becomes a criminal matter." He advised me to record future conversations with Emily, inspect the staircase railing, and speak with neighbors. That afternoon, I went to a notary office recommended by Robert Brown. The notary, Stephen Harris, was professional and understanding. "A living trust is a smart move," he said. "We'll need proof of mental fitness and 2 credible witnesses." That night, I called Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Johnson, the neighborhood association head. Both agreed to serve as witnesses. I also began recording every conversation. As expected, Emily returned Thursday night, this time with Michael. He looked hesitant. "Have you decided?" Emily asked. I recorded everything. The next morning, everything changed. A police car pulled into my driveway. For the first time, I saw Emily Miller in handcuffs. A man in a suit approached me. "Mr. Miller, I'm Andrew Wilson, attorney from Wilson and Partners. We represent you." A police officer stepped forward. "I'm Officer Daniel Clark with the Salem Police Department. We're investigating document fraud, elder intimidation, and criminal threats." "Yes," I said, my hands trembling, but my heart steady. "Please come in."
We entered the living room. Emily was allowed to sit in the corner chair guarded by a police officer. Her face was no longer arrogant like the night before. Now she looked frightened and confused. Andrew Wilson, the attorney, opened his folder. "Mr. Miller," he said, "yesterday Mr. Harold Simmons contacted us after reviewing the evidence you collected, audio recordings, medical reports, and witness notes. We immediately forwarded everything to the police. He paused, then continued. During the initial investigation, we discovered something unexpected. Officer Daniel Clark took over. Sir, after further review, we found that your son Michael had already filed a report earlier. Michael filed a report? I asked in disbelief. About what? About his own wife, Emily, the officer replied. He brought recorded conversations he secretly obtained. The officer pulled out his phone. This is one of the recordings Michael submitted yesterday afternoon. We're going to play it now. I nodded. The audio played. Emily's voice was unmistakable. If he refuses to sign, we'll stage a small accident, just like before. The other voice was unclear, but Emily continued. Yeah, the way we did it to Susan Miller, that worked. My world spun. That recording confirmed it. Susan's death had not been an accident. Who recorded this? I asked, my voice shaking. Michael, Officer Clark replied. He started suspecting her weeks ago. He secretly installed a recording app on her phone. Where is Michael now? I asked. He's at the police station giving additional testimony. He's the one who brought all of this to us. Andrew Wilson showed me another document. This is a forged power of attorney document Emily was preparing to submit to a notary yesterday. Thankfully, Michael realized what was happening and stopped the process. I looked at Emily, sitting silently in the corner. She lowered her head, unable to meet my eyes. Emily, I said. She slowly looked up, tears filling her eyes. You really are the one who killed Susan. She broke down, crying. I didn't mean to kill her, Emily sobbed. I just wanted her to fall and get sick, so she'd need expensive treatment. I thought you'd be forced to sell the house to pay medical bills. I never thought she'd die. I thought it would just be broken bones. Her confession made me nauseous. For 3 years, I had blamed myself for failing to protect Susan. All this time, she had been killed by my own daughter-in-law. Officer Clark recorded everything. Mr. Miller, Emily will be taken to the station for further questioning. You'll also be asked to provide testimony as the victim. She will be charged, he continued, most likely with premeditated murder, document fraud, and elder intimidation. The officers and attorneys prepared to leave. Emily was led outside, her hands still in cuffs. Before getting into the police car, she turned toward me. I'm sorry, Dad, she said weakly. I didn't answer. No apology could bring Susan back. After they left, I sat alone in the living room. The house felt painfully quiet. Susan's photo on the wall seemed to look at me with sadness. I'm sorry, Susan. I only just found out who truly hurt you. That afternoon, Michael came alone. His face was shattered. His eyes were red. His body looked utterly exhausted. He sat across from me in silence for several minutes. Dad, he finally said hoarsely, I don't even know where to start. I looked at my son, broken, lost. Despite everything, now I saw him more as a victim of Emily's manipulation. When did you start suspecting her? I asked. Last week, he said. I overheard her making late-night calls about how to take your house. At first, I thought she was just talking to friends. He pulled out his phone. But it got stranger. She started talking about Mom's fall. That's when I installed the recording app. He wiped his tears. Last night, after she came back from here, she called again. She said, Plan A failed. We have to use Plan B. She talked about staging another small accident, like what she did to Mom. Michael broke down completely. Dad, I just realized Mom didn't die from an accident. She was murdered. I hugged my son as he cried. Despite everything he'd done wrong, he was still my child, and now another victim. I'm sorry about what happened the other day, he sobbed. I had no idea Emily had been planning all of this for so long. You didn't know she caused your mother's fall? I asked. No, Dad. If I'd known, I would have gone to the police immediately. I believed him. Michael was easily influenced, but he wasn't a killer. Where is Emily now? He said. In police custody.
They said the case is serious. She could face 7 to 10 years in prison. And Ethan? I asked. I picked him up from her parents' place this afternoon. He's staying with me now. I'll take care of him myself. Can you handle that? I have to, he said firmly. I failed you and Mom. Now I have to take responsibility. For the first time in a long while, we sat together in silence that wasn't painful. Michael, I said gently. Yes, Dad? This house will always be your family home. When you're truly standing on your own and ready to be a good son, this door will always be open. His eyes lit up. I don't want the house anymore, he said. I just want forgiveness and a chance to become a better son. That's all I ever wanted to hear. A few days later, Andrew Wilson called with an update. Mr. Miller, Emily has officially been charged with premeditated murder in Susan Miller's case, as well as intimidation and criminal threats against you. The prosecutor is seeking an 8-year sentence. When does the trial begin? I asked. Next month. You'll be called as a victim witness. I agreed. I was ready to face court, to ensure Susan finally received justice. One more thing, he added. Your house is now legally secure. The living trust you created has been finalized. No one can take this property from you. Relief washed over me. The following weeks, Michael began visiting regularly, not to ask for anything, but to help. He fixed the leaking roof, repainted the fence, cleaned the drainage. Ethan began staying over more often. He didn't fully understand why his mother was gone, but he was happy playing with his grandfather again. Grandpa, why doesn't Mom come anymore? He asked one afternoon. She's gone far away, Ethan, I answered carefully. It may take a long time before we see her again. I miss Mom, he said. I know, but now you have your dad and your grandpa who love you. He nodded and went back to playing. One night at dinner, Michael talked about his future plans. Dad, I'm thinking about taking a welding course. They say skilled welders earn decent money. That's good, I said. You need a real skill. I also want to save for Ethan's education. You're not alone. I'll help too. Michael smiled. Thank you, Dad. But I want to try standing on my own first. I want to prove I can be a responsible son and father. Seeing his growth made me happy. Painful as it was, he finally learned the true meaning of family. Mrs. Bennett was also relieved when she heard the news. Justice finally came, Mr. Miller, she said one afternoon on the porch. Yes, I replied. But I'm still sad Ethan lost his mother. What matters is that he has a good father and grandfather, she said. Children adapt. 3 months later, Emily's trial ended. She was found guilty and sentenced to 7 years in prison. During the final hearing, she confessed and apologized. I attended as the judge read the verdict. Emily looked at me with eyes full of regret. After the trial, a heavy weight lifted from my chest. Justice for Susan had finally been served. 3 years too late, but still justice. Now the house is peaceful again. Michael works as a welder, earning enough for a modest life. Ethan is cheerful and has begun learning to read thanks to tutoring I give him every afternoon. At night, sitting in the rattan chair looking at Susan's photo, I whisper, Susan, the one who hurt you has been punished. Michael has changed. Ethan is growing well. This house is safe. The night breeze flows gently, as if Susan is answering, telling me she is finally at peace. A few days later, Michael came alone. His face was serious, but lighter. Dad, there's something I want to talk about, he said. He sat in the rattan chair I usually used. I sat across from him, in the chair Susan once loved. The evening air was cool. Birds chirped softly. Peace at last. Michael pulled out a small, worn blue notebook. I found this yesterday while cleaning old things at the rental. It's Susan's diary. My hands trembled as I took it. I recognized Susan's neat, slightly slanted handwriting. Open the page I marked, Michael said quietly. I opened it. The entry was dated October 15th, 2 months before Susan died. Today, Emily started asking questions about the house documents.
She wrote, she said she wanted to help take care of the paperwork if anything was incomplete, but something felt off. Why did she suddenly care so much about the house documents? I started to feel suspicious. Yesterday, I saw Emily rummaging through the document cabinet when she thought I wasn't looking. When I asked what she was searching for, she said she just wanted to see family photos, but the folder she opened contained important legal papers. There's another note dated October 20th. Emily talks about this house very often. She says it's a waste for a house this big to be occupied by just the two of us. She suggested that they move in so they could take care of us in our old age. But why do I feel she has another motive? My eyes filled with tears as I read the last entry written by Susan Miller. I must be careful with Emily. My instincts tell me she is planning something bad. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm right, I must protect my husband and this house. I closed the notebook and looked at Michael. My child has been crying, Dad, Michael said, wiping his tears. Mom knew for a long time that Emily had bad intentions. Why didn't I ever realize it? Because you never expected someone so close to you to have evil intentions, I replied gently as I placed the notebook on the table. That's normal, but I should have paid more attention to Mom, Michael said regretfully. I should have listened when she complained about Emily. I looked at my son full of remorse. Michael, what's already happened can't be changed, I said softly. What matters now is that you've realized your mistake and want to do what's right. Michael nodded, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Dad, I want to apologize, truly, he said, not just for slapping you yesterday, but for letting Emily hurt our family for so long. I accept your apology, Michael, I replied, but an apology alone isn't enough. I know, Dad, he said firmly. That's why I want to prove I've really changed. How can I do that? Michael stood up and walked toward the window facing the backyard. From there, we could see the small garden where Susan used to grow vegetables. I want to take care of Mom's garden, he said. I want to plant vegetables like she used to. And I want to bring Ethan to help so he learns to respect hard work. That's a good idea. I also want to come here regularly, he continued, not to ask for anything, just to help you and teach Ethan about what a good family really means. Michael sat back down and looked at me seriously. Dad, I'd also like permission to put Mom's photo in our rental place, so Ethan will always remember his kind grandmother. Of course, I replied. Take whichever photo you want. Thank you, Dad. We sat together in a comfortable silence. The afternoon breeze gently shook the guava tree leaves. The sound of children playing echoed faintly from the street. Dad, Michael said suddenly. Yes, this house belongs to you. I will never ask for it or demand anything from it again. Michael, I said, this house belongs to me as long as I'm alive. But one day, when I'm gone, it will be yours as my only child. I know, Dad, he replied, but I want to make sure you feel safe and comfortable in your own home until the end. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. In the weeks that followed, Michael kept his promise. Every Saturday and Sunday, he came to help around the house. He fixed the leaking roof, repainted the peeling walls, and cleaned the drainage. What made me happiest was seeing him take Ethan to the mosque every Friday. My grandson started learning how to read the Quran and memorized a few short verses. Grandpa, Ethan said, hugging my leg, Daddy taught me to read Al-Fatiha. Wow, you're smart, Ethan, I said proudly. Try reading it for Grandpa. Ethan recited Al-Fatiha in a small but clear voice. Though he stumbled a little, I was deeply proud. Well done. Keep learning so you grow into a good man. Yes, Grandpa. Daddy said if I study the Quran diligently, I'll meet my grandma in heaven. Tears filled my eyes. Susan would have been so happy. One day, Mr. Hashem, now adapted as Harold Simmons, came to visit with legal updates. Mr. Miller, he said quietly, all legal matters are finalized. Your house is legally secure. The living trust is officially registered and cannot be challenged by anyone. Thank you, I replied. How much do I owe you? It's already paid, he said. Michael covered everything. He said it was his responsibility as a son. I was stunned. Where did he get the money? His income wasn't much. He sold his old motorcycle, he explained. He said protecting his father's home was more important than owning a vehicle. My heart tightened. My son had truly changed. Months later, Mrs. Bennett came with news about Emily. Mr. Miller, she said quietly, I heard from the neighborhood association that Emily is sick in prison. She asked Michael and Ethan to visit her. Is Michael going? Yes, Mrs. Bennett replied, but only so Ethan knows who his mother is, so he doesn't grow up hating her even though she was wrong. I nodded. That's a wise decision. Aren't you going to visit her? She asked.
I shook my head. I've forgiven her in my heart, but I don't need to see her again. That's understandable, Mrs. Bennet said. What matters is that the problem is over, and your family is whole again. That week, Michael and Ethan visited Emily in prison. They returned looking sad but relieved. How was it? I asked Ethan. Mommy looks very thin, Ethan said softly. She apologized to me and Daddy. She also said sorry to Grandpa. What did you say to her? I asked. I told Mommy I still love her, but she has to repent and become a good person. I smiled at my grandson's wisdom. And what did you say? I asked Michael. I told her I forgave her, but she must serve her sentence patiently and never interfere with our family again after she's released. Did she agree? Yes, she said she was ashamed and didn't deserve to be part of the family anymore. That night, the three of us had dinner together. Simple food, rice, sour vegetable soup, and salted fish. But the atmosphere was warm and peaceful. Grandpa, Ethan said suddenly, I'm happy this house wasn't sold. I like playing here with you. I'm happy you enjoy being here too. Can I live here with Grandpa when I grow up? Michael gently interrupted. Ethan, Grandpa is old. One day, when Grandpa is gone, you'll live with Daddy. Then what about this house, Grandpa? I looked at my son and grandson. This house will always be our family home, I said. You must protect it the way your grandmother and I did. Yes, Grandpa, Ethan replied enthusiastically. Michael smiled. I promise I will take care of this house and teach Ethan how to respect our family heritage. A year later, our lives had fully stabilized. Michael had become a skilled welder, earning enough for a decent living. He even began saving to buy a small house near mine. Close, but independent. Ethan had entered first grade and was doing well in school, cheerful, polite, untouched by the darkness of the past. One afternoon on the porch while eating fried bananas, Ethan asked a question that caught us off guard. Grandpa, can I ask something? Of course. Why was Mommy mean to Grandpa? She was supposed to love you. Michael and I exchanged glances. Sometimes, Michael said carefully, adults make mistakes because they want something too badly and forget what's right. But Mommy's a good person, Ethan said. She used to buy me toys. She does love you, I added gently, but she chose the wrong way to get this house for you. That's why she had to be punished so she could learn. Oh, Ethan nodded. So if we want something, we must use good ways, right, Grandpa? Exactly. And if something is not allowed, we must not force it. I understand, Grandpa. That night, after Michael and Ethan returned to their rental home, I sat alone in the living room. Susan's photo on the wall seemed to smile at me. Susan, I whispered, justice for your death has been served. Michael has repented. Ethan is growing into a good boy. Our home is safe. The night breeze flowed through the open window, carrying the scent of jasmine from the backyard. This house was the same, wooden walls, tiled floors, guava tree in the yard, but now it meant something more. Not just a place to live, but a witness to the struggle for dignity and justice. For the first time in a long while, I truly felt at home.